530 scholarship Division One football players entered the transfer portal when it opened on Monday, which is a lot. That is a ton of players. It's a couple of teams worth of players. And you'll see any time that there is, I don't more than 4 or 5 players from one team leave to go to another to go to the transfer portal, you will see comments from the general public, college football media, whatever the case may be, of, oh, there must be trouble at insert school here. They've got 6 guys in the portal. Do you know what having several players in the transfer portal means about your program, about your favorite team, about your school? It means absolutely nothing. Not one thing. Because there is no blanket statement for the transfer portal. There is no blanket reason for why players are leaving their current schools. It is a whole host, a gigantic, forever long list of reasons. And the idea that because 8 guys, 10 guys, 11 guys, whoever the case may be, and part of it, I think, should matter on how many scholarship players you're losing, because you can see a list of like, okay, there are 8 guys in the portal from this school. Well, if 3 of them are scholarship guys and 5 of them aren't, okay. Like, it's not, when you look at how that team is going to build for the future or what that means for their roster going forward or whatever, it's not that serious of a case. Now, if there are 13 guys in the portal from one school and they're all scholarship guys, then yes, we need to have a discussion about like, okay, well, how do they operate going forward? But the idea that just because you have a bunch of guys in the portal means you either have a toxic coach, a toxic locker room, somebody has been lied to, people view it as a sinking ship and you've got to get off. Like, I don't think any of those things are super prevalent reasons for why kids get in the portal. I think the biggest thing that happens is guys look around them and go, "Oh, you know what? There are a couple guys look around them and go, I'm not going to get on the field here." And if you're going, and I hate this idea that like everybody pretends that the second that you make a commitment when you're 18 years old, you should stick with that commitment until you're 25 years old or 23 years old, I guess, is ridiculous. You change jobs. The idea that because you accepted a job when you like, I think my dad took a job when he was like 28 years old and worked that job until he was 62 years old. And I'm certain he hated it every single day. Got up and went to the factory every single day and hated it. And I appreciate that about him because I don't have the ability to wake up and do something that I hate every day. And he did. And I admire that about him. But he operated under this idea that because I took this job when I was 28, I have to do it until the day I retire. And it's stupid. And he passed that on to my brother, if we can get into family dynamics, that, I took this job, therefore I have to stay forever. No, that's not how it works. It doesn't work that way in any aspect of life. So the idea that because a high schooler decided some February Wednesday that he was going to go to Alabama, that he therefore has to stick that out until his eligibility is done, is stupid. Situations change. Priorities change. Everything changes, and that's okay. So you look around and you go, you know what, I'm not going to get on the field here. And you know what the alternative of that is? College football players work really, really hard. All the time. They have to work really hard all the time. And if your trade-off for doing what's asked of you, doing what's expected of you, going to class, going to workouts, being a good teammate, doing everything that your program has asked of you, And your reward for that is we're still not going to play you because you're not the best person for the job. It's okay to go find a new job. Like I don't know how it's like remotely controversial or divisive or whatever the case may be. Coaches change, players change, situations change, priorities change. And so if you find yourself looking at the portal and saying there might be better options there for me, I would find it really difficult to put in the work on a Tuesday morning at 5:00 in the Tuesday at 5:00 in the morning, some February day, and get up at 5:00 in the morning and work out every single day and do all the drills, do all the workouts, do everything that the coaches ask of you to do, and participate in spring ball and lift on your own time and work out on your own time and watch film on your own time to get to the first Saturday in the fall and be like, okay, yeah, you're fourth on the depth chart. If 3 guys in front of you have catastrophic injuries, you're up. But until then, sorry. I don't think it's ridiculous to, and it's, I hate the idea that it's indicative of society as a whole, that, oh, it's just instant gratification. Nothing about playing college football is instant gratification. There is not one thing. There is not a short, quick, easy path to success, greatness, etc. You have to work for it. Now, some guys have to work harder than others for it. Some guys are just naturally gifted, can roll out the rack, put on some cleats, and be great. But you know what? They still have to show up. They still have to do the work. They still have to impress the coaches. They still have to do everything that's required of them. And some guys have to work harder at it. And some guys decide when they're 18, I want to go away from home. I want to go see the world. I want to go to some school that's really far away. And then 2 years later, you're like, you know what? I miss home. I miss being close to my family. I miss all sorts of things. Or when somebody was 18 and they left home to go to some school, and now suddenly somebody in their family is ill, somebody in their family is in their last days, something in their family situation has changed, and being closer to home is a bigger priority to them, that has to be okay. But the idea that there are people inside locker rooms going, you know what, I don't think we're going to be very good next year. I don't like the way our program is trending, or if I leave, people will start talking about the head coach in the way that I want them to talk about. I don't think that really happens. Now, there might be some guys that have, especially at the quarterback position, where there are only 130 plus jobs that you're going to get to sling the football to get your opportunity to play in the NFL. There's only one of those guys on each team for the most part. Now, they might look around and go, you know what, the weapons might not be here next year, or the offensive line's not going to be very good here next year, or the offensive coordinator is not meshing with my style. Like, he wants to run the football, I want to throw the football. He wants me to run, I'm not a runner, or he doesn't want me to run, and I am a runner. There are all sorts of options, reasons, and explanations for why guys get in the transfer portal. And not one of them has to do with an individual for the most part. Not one of them has to do with an individual program, or I don't think there's a whole lot you can take away from guys at Vanderbilt want to go play somewhere else. What does that say about the head coach? What does that say about the program? What does that say about their placement in the SEC? It says nothing. It says either for the 11 guys at that school that they think their best option is somewhere else. That's option number one. Option number two is they're good enough to go somewhere else. Option number three is they're good enough to go somewhere else, and somebody with an NIL bag is willing to pay them to go somewhere else. Or number four is the culture inside the locker room is so terrible that they have to get out. What's the most likely scenario in that option, in those options? It isn't option number four. It isn't that these, like, it can't be both, that people view college football players that are 18 to 23 and now 24, 25. It can't be that they're both too dumb to understand what's best for them, that they're shallow, immature, etc., but then also have the foresight and the ability to have the 1,000-foot view and look down on a situation and be like, oh, you know what? My moral compass is telling me that this college football coach isn't acting in the most ethical way. Like, it's just, it can't be both in that situation. It can't be that you are one of the smartest people from 18 to 23 and then also too dumb to know what's good for you. It can't be both. So kids get in the portal for all sorts of reasons, and it makes no statement whatsoever on your program, your college, your university, your team, or your rival's team, or your rival's program, or your rival's university. And it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody is cheating by throwing too much money around or whatever. And if that's what kids prioritize, they probably eventually will come back around and go, you know what, I got that wrong. And then it corrects itself anyway. But I don't think we, as a collective college football fan base, have rectified in our minds what the transfer portal means and has done to change the game, because you're still operating under the idea that, like, oh man, 8 guys from that team are leaving. Yes, when you had to sit out a year to transfer, 8 guys would be a lot, because the repercussions and the payment that it cost, the consequence of transferring was a really steep price to pay. Now it's not. One, I think that's okay. I think it's okay that there's not a steep price to pay for deciding, one, the decision I made when I was 18 years old doesn't necessarily jive with what I prioritize now. Or two, the situation has changed and I want to go somewhere else. I don't think having to sit out a year benefits really anybody but coaches. And coaches will tell you now that they don't like the portal. Oh my gosh, it's just a free-for-all. It's a frenzy. It's free agency. It's college football run amok. And you know what? 95% of the coaches are cruising the transfer portal right now, looking for dudes going, how can I get better? How can I figure this out? So you can decry you can say, oh, I don't like it. I hate it. I think it gives the players too much power, etc. They're all using it, except for Dabo Swinney. They're all using it. They're all trying to use it to their advantage. They're all looking at their rosters going into next season going, how can I get this guy in the portal so I can open up a scholarship for somebody else? They're all doing it. They're all hypocrites for pretending as if they're not benefiting from the system. They are. And that's okay. The system was put in place and designed for you to benefit. But making broad assumptions for the way that people want to operate in the transfer portal, and that Ohio State's a sinking ship because, their 4th wide receiver, a guy who's not going to get on the field next year, is going to transfer, or their 7th linebacker is in the transfer portal. Now, there are, on an individual basis, can you read into it? Oregon State, DJ Uiagalelei entered the transfer portal. Also might declare for the NFL draft, the backup quarterback, then entered the transfer portal. Backup quarterback might have a great relationship with Jonathan Smith, who wanted to move to Michigan State, might not have a great relationship with the new head coach. Even that is, you can't make just blanket generalizations about, one, things you don't really have a whole lot of insider knowledge about, which is an epidemic in its own right these days. But then also, just you can't make blanket statements about the future of a program or the way a head coach is viewed in the locker room or any of those things by individual decisions made by guys who are 18 to 22 years old. There's just not a whole lot that can be gleaned from that. Sometimes it's just getting bad information. It's somebody getting in their ear that that the kids shouldn't be listening to. But they do, because they trust that person, or they like what that person is telling them. That doesn't have anything to do with the future or the status of the program or the culture inside the locker room or a fractured relationship with this position coach and this guy's got to lose his job because 3 players are in the transfer. It's way more complex than that. In a world of black and white, reasons why people enter the transfer portal is gray as hell. And we try to turn it into black and white when it isn't. So there is no blanket statement. There's not a whole lot to be discerned about what it says when a group enters the transfer portal, or, oh my gosh, they've got 6 guys in the portal. It's a whole new world, and we have to act like it. And I don't think we are yet. That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. Be back at it tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content we're pumping out here at Saturday Glory. If you are listening to the podcast, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. See you tomorrow here on the Daily Huddle with Saturday Glory.